Hi there, my name's Jo Gamble and I'm a functional medicine practitioner. And today I want to talk to you about a functional approach to optimizing our gut health. Why? Because so many people walk through my door with functional bowel disorders. Now, they might not call it this, they tend to refer to it as IBS. Now, those symptoms include diarrhea or constipation, or maybe a mix of the two, excessive mucus secretions in the stools, indigestion or heartburn, so upper GI symptoms, nausea, bloating, anxiety, flatulence, depression, abnormal looking stools, straining to pass, urgency, or the feeling of incomplete evacuation. So they might have a diagnosis of IBS from their medical doctor. In my opinion, all of these show that there is an imbalance in the functioning of our digestive system. So, what are some of the factors that I would look for in a client presenting with functional bowel disorder? So, they might present with parasites or bacteria or fungi, and I can look for these on a stool test. They might have a leaky gut, which means instead of the membranes being tightly packed together like so, they've got little holes in the lining of the gut for various different reasons, including the potential for bacteria, or it could be caused by pharmaceutical drugs, things like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, so ibuprofen, naproxen, but also factors like stress or toxins can cause an imbalance to the lining of the gut. It might be driven by hormonal imbalance, or the oral contraceptive pill again can damage the lining of the gut. Stress, emotional imbalance. But it could also be something linked to their liver or their gallbladder. Could be that they're eating foods that they are intolerant to. Intolerances are different to allergies. Allergies usually present immediately or certainly within 6 hours of eating the food or coming into contact with the allergen. Intolerance take between 6 to 72 hours for the symptoms to manifest. So if you think about common food groups like gluten or dairy, most people consume them multiple times within that 72-hour window, which is why sometimes it's so difficult to find out which foods you're reacting to. Now, a functional bowel disorder can go wrong at many different places, from mastication, i.e. chewing, right down to lack of stomach acid, lack of enzymes, lack of bile, all compromising digestive processes. Now, it's so hard for you, the individual, to go, oh, I think my problem is, because quite often with the gut, it's actually multifaceted. It's more than one imbalance, such as insufficiency dysbiosis, which might mean you have an insufficiency of the good bacteria, or an insufficiency of hydrochloric acid, helps with digestion, or enzymes, or bile. They're all the common factors that we might be insufficient with. It might be bacterial overgrowth. Therefore, you've got too many bacteria in the small or the large intestine. It might be that you have microbes producing toxins, actually alter your immune system function. So maybe you're questioning, I regularly get colds or other infections, and maybe it's linked to your gut. Hypersensitivity or allergic dysbiosis. Some people have an exaggerated immune response to otherwise normal yeasts and bacteria. And some people have a reduced ability to break down histamine. It involves an enzyme called diamine oxidase. And some of us are deficient in that diamine oxidase, which means we build up histamine within our bodies, and that can cause symptoms from itchy skin or hives to other gut symptoms. It could be inflammatory related, and this can then go on and trigger symptoms in other parts of our body, such as joint stiffness or other inflammatory symptoms, including things like headaches. It could be that you've got a parasite. Don't think you've got to have traveled far and wide to pick up a parasite. They're very common in the UK also. So why are we seeing so many people present with imbalances in their gut? functional bowel disorders, as I like to refer to them. Well, the typical Western diet is low in fiber, high in fat, and rich in simple carbohydrates, which turn to sugar really quickly in the body. They're quite deficient in fibers and also prebiotic rich foods, which I'll go to in just a minute. We do see many people present with regular use of broad spectrum antibiotics, and these don't just kill off the bacteria of, say, for example, the ear infection, they're non-discriminative, which means they also kill off beneficial bacteria, protective bacteria. It might be that linked to overuse of proton pump inhibitors. This is your omeprazole or your lansoprazole or ranitidine or Rennies or Gaviscon. It might be linked to chronic constipation. And this is something that can be a learned behavior because we don't like passing bowel movements in public toilets or when we're at school or when we're at work. So it might be that we've created a bad habit in ourselves. Actually, I see this very commonly in women, particularly mums who just don't give themselves time to sit on the toilet in the morning before they leave the house. And definitely emotional imbalance, stress, fear, and anger can all drive functional bowel disorders. So let's keep it really simple. We need to think about the food that goes in. We need to think about the immune function within the gut, how we break down that food, how it communicates with other systems in our body. And we need to also very much think about elimination. Leaving our body. That's our waste that's leaving our body. And if it stays in us for too long, we recirculate those toxins from within it. This is why it's so important to really have that regular daily bowel movement. Now, diet has the most powerful influence on gut microbial communities in healthy human subjects. About 75% of the food in the Western diet is of limited or no benefit to the microbiota in the lower gut, meaning that that's not really good food. It's food-like substance, but it's not nourishing food. And this is what we're seeing in many more people present with lack of this beneficial food. Now, I mentioned that word prebiotic. It's a substance that's selectively utilized by host microorganisms in a beneficial way. It helps to feed our good bacteria. And we get those prebiotic foods in many different foods, particularly things like onions, garlic, leeks, which I use as the base of all of my soups, my stews, my casseroles, my curries. So I try and get prebiotic rich foods in on a daily basis to our family meals. And actually, relatively, it is quite easy to do it. Now, I mentioned about food intolerances, and the 6 most common foods to cause imbalance within the gut are cow's milk dairy, soy, wheat, eggs, peanuts and tree nuts, and shellfish. And in some instances, we need to do a complete elimination of these foods and then start adding them back in one at a time in their single particles. So not a gluten and cheese pizza, but instead a small amount of wheat and a small amount of milk, for example, to see if we can pinpoint the reactions. And many people are able to, after an elimination diet, be able to find out which foods they're truly reacting to. And I take my clients who I need to on a step-by-step elimination diet. So if you think that's relevant to you, you come in and see me and we can go through that elimination diet step by step. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing more and more, probably over the last 5 years, is SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Now, in these circumstances, clients present with often constipation or diarrhea, depending on the type of bacteria in the small intestine, which, by the way, should be a sterile environment, i.e. there shouldn't be any bacteria in there. But a big symptom to look for in SIBO is bloating, particularly bloating that gets worse over the course of the day, i.e. after we've put more and more food into our digestive system. And that is because those foods are fermenting and producing gas. And that wind might go up or down, but whilst it can't get out, we get distension, we get abdominal distension. So those top foods that are Fermentable are our grains, particularly our wheat and our rye, apples and pears, onions and garlic, milk and soft cheeses, sweeteners such as agave syrup or honey, and other high fructose corn syrup and alcohol sugars. The list is much more comprehensive than this. It's just a snapshot. But if you're presenting with bloating symptoms on a daily basis, you might want to think about the potential for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Now, what else can you do to help your optimal gut microenvironment? Exercise. Exercise stimulates peristalsis, movement through the colon. Trying to manage stress. I've already said stress is a big alteration of that gut bacteria. Sleep hygiene, aiming for 8 hours of good quality, undisturbed sleep a night. I know that's not always possible, particularly if you've got young children, but that's our goal that we're working towards. Ideally, we aim to finish eating 2 hours before we sleep. Give us a chance to start that digestive process before you go to bed. And also have a gap between meals, i.e. drop your snacks. Our migrating motor complex, which helps to stimulate movement through the stomach and small intestine, only is stimulated from the brain to the stomach in fasting, ideally 4 hours after we last ate. That process works. So if you're going to have breakfast and 2 hours later a snack, 2 hours later lunch, 2 hours later a snack, 2 hours later dinner, you're going to have no stimulation through the stomach and small intestine until finally you go to bed and start fasting. So I actively discourage my bacterial dysbiosis clients to snack in between their meals, and this really can make a difference. Now, finally, my absolute go-to with all of my clients is testing. Why? Because it helps me to create a Google roadmap to get you from A to Z as quickly as possible. If you've been struggling with these symptoms long-term, we need to make a difference. We need to make changes. And the only way we can really do that is to add some science to your symptoms, which is to find out exactly what is going on. I test probably 90% of my gut dysbiosis clients, and it makes me get to the answers very, very quickly, which helps me to take them on their journey as effectively as possible. If you need some more support with your journey with gut dysbiosis, then you come in and see us here at Embracing Nutrition. We do make a difference. We are here to take you all the way on your journey. You take care. Bye for now.